Good morning, this is Tyler Dawn Rosenquist of theancientbridge.com and contextforkids.com, and we're going forward with our series on the fruit of the Spirit. And today I want to talk about, there's going to be a couple of weeks, I want to talk about 1 Corinthians 12 verses 12 on. I want to talk about spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts are greatly misunderstood. As a matter of fact, they're so misunderstood that a lot of people don't even think that they have one, because the Pentecostal church, which I was a member of, and the Charismatics, they really focused on this supernatural aspect, where the gifts have to be something that are wild and out there. For example, it's workings of miracles, it's tongues, it's prophesying, it's that kind of stuff. But there are many different kinds of fruits of spirit, spiritual gifts. When we look in Exodus, we see that there were two men, Bahaliel and Oholiab, I hope I got this right, who were given spiritually the ability to be artistic and to know how to do all of the building, all of the sorts of things that were going to be required to build the tabernacle. Well, that is a spiritual gift. That is a gift from God. It wasn't like they spoke over the gold and the gold, became the menorah. No, it was beaten with it was hammered. So anything that we have the ability to do can be at a supernatural level. There are people who feed the poor at a supernatural level. There are people who do Bible translations, and they have a spiritual gift for seeing the way to do that. My writing is a spiritual gift. I don't know how I do it. It just happens. I can't teach anybody to do it because I don't know how it happens. It's my spiritual gift. There are people who can lead in a very spiritually gifted way. There are people who teach. There are people who do missionary work, and they've got that gift. The evangelists, they've got that gift. We make a big mistake when we look at and when we say, well, I don't have a spiritual gift, because the only things I can do are the same things that other people can do, and yet I would say in this day and age that a person who can identify the needs of the widows and orphans in their community definitely have a spiritual gift. People who seem to know when somebody else needs prayed for, that's definitely a spiritual gift. A lack of understanding and a lack of appreciation for spiritual gifts, I think, has led to a lot of problems in the body, and I'm going to talk about one today. Because I've been seeing this happen more and more on social media, and of course everything that we've been learning so far has been tied to social media and our witness on social media. I think that a lack of appreciation for the niche that we're called to work in has resulted in people undermining other people's ministries, because their ministry doesn't look the same. No one's ministry is supposed to look exactly the same. We each have our own unique background. If I have a gift for counseling people, which I don't, just an example here, and you have a gift for counseling people, well, maybe I have a gift for counseling certain kinds of people who have been through certain kinds of abuse, but I don't have a gift for doing other things. Maybe you have a gift for, and maybe you look at my ministry and you say, well, they're not counseling in this, therefore they're not serving God properly. But that's not my niche. That's not what I'm called to do. That's what you're called to do. And it's a mistake to say, this is what I'm called to do, and you're not doing it, so you're not serving God. And so let's look at 1 Corinthians 12, for just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we were baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, all were made to drink of the Spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members of the body, each one of them, as He chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head of the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow greater honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no divisions in the body, but that members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. And it goes on. We've got two situations here. We've got people saying, well, I'm not really a part of the body because I don't have one of the big gifts. Big. And I say that, with quotation marks, because if I need a sandwich and you are gifted in helps, but you think that you should be evangelizing, and you come to me and I'm hungry, and what I really need is a meal, but you don't think that feeding people is good enough, and you preach to me instead, and you are not called to be an evangelist, and you're botching it because it's not your calling and it's not what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm sitting there hungry, then you didn't do your job in the kingdom. And I needed that helps. I needed that sandwich. I needed somebody to reach into my need. I'm not going to be wanting to hear the gospel in that situation. I'm going to want what I need, and you could have fulfilled my need, and you could have been, in that moment, the greatest person in the kingdom to me. Okay? Now, the reason I'm bringing this up related to this, like I said, people saying they're not, and people who are saying you're not because you're not doing what I'm doing. Okay, I got caught in that a long time ago, and it was 3 wasted months trying to be an evangelist. So I'm speaking from experience here. But in the teaching game, and I call it a game because a lot of people play it like a game, there are so many things to be taught. Oh my goodness, there are so many things to be taught. You've got primary languages, which I can't teach you because I can read Hebrew, and I'm understanding more and more words all the time, but languages have never been my thing. There are languages, there's what I teach, which is ancient Near Eastern context, and there's also people who need to be teaching character, which I do a little bit of. There are people who need to teach new people how to settle down and learn and take the time to invest, and that'll be the next teaching. My favorite, do not touch the fruit on that little tree. There are a million things that need to be taught so that the body will be whole and balanced and well-rounded. But what I've been seeing more and more of, and this is nothing new, I saw this, I've been seeing this for over 5 years now, is you have teachers out there who aren't respecting what other people are teaching at all. They only respect what they teach. And so they tear down and they undermine people who have a different calling. For example, a few months ago, someone was teaching the same thing I teach, but they were teaching it in a different way. which is fine. I don't, I didn't own that information. There's a lot of different ways to teach it. And someone posted my teaching to it. It says, well, Tyler Don Rosenquist put this out. Well, they read it, and they taught it at a shallower level than I did. They just said, well, this and this because this. They didn't really back up their claims. They just said, this is this. Well, when I teach something like that, I go into the archaeology and I go into the scholarly journals and I footnote and I do all this stuff so you don't just have to take my word for it. Well, the guy read it and he said, well, I really don't agree with what she's doing here. You shouldn't need anything more than Encyclopedia Britannica Online and Wikipedia to be able to prove your teaching. Okay, now one, that was unnecessary. And I actually asked people after that not to share my teachings where they haven't been asked for. Because this is often, partially because I'm a woman, men don't like to be schooled by women. Not all men. But a lot of men, they don't really welcome it, especially when they've just taught something. But also, people don't like to be shown up. Okay, and I provided evidence for the claims that he was making, and instead of saying, oh wow, yeah, great, I can use that, he said, thou shalt not study any more than I study. I mean, he was telling people that it was not good to study at a deeper level than Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica Online, but Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica Online are often wrong. Those articles are not written by experts in the field. And I know that's probably going to upset. Now, Wikipedia can be edited by anyone. And a lot of times, you'll see something and it'll say citation needed. It's because the person didn't even back up what they're saying. Now, sometimes that information is legit. But the reason I know that information's legit is because I study the source material. I get as close to the primary source material as possible. The primary source material is original documents like Josephus, who wrote in the 1st century. It's primary source material in the temple because he'd been there. He was primary source material on the Jewish wars of the 1st century against the Romans because he was there. Because we take his, if I say something's true about that time, and Josephus said, well, you listen to Josephus because I'm not that old. Okay? We have to allow people to be teaching in a different way than we're teaching and teaching different stuff than we're teaching without undermining them. There's no good to be had in undermining what other people are doing. Because I'll tell you something, what it does is it discourages people from learning. Discourages people from getting the most out of their Bibles that they can. How horrible it is for a teacher, and I'm going to say teacher in quotation marks here, because when you're discouraging people from learning, you're not a teacher. You just want to be an authority. Okay? And yeah, that's a serious charge, but it's also very true. Any teacher should want their students to surpass them. You know what I love about teaching kids? The thing I love about teaching kids is I want them to go into their adult years with the amount of information that it's taken me, that I'm in my late 40s. I want them to start out at that level. I want them to go into college or just into their working lives with that material and with the knowledge of how to get more information. I want them to surpass me. I want everyone who learns from me to surpass me. I don't want to be the source. What's the use? I mean, that's why people come to me and they ask me questions all the time, and I say, I don't know, but I do know who does. Or I think I will know who does. I don't study afterlife beliefs. My friend Matthew Vanderels does. I send you to Matthew Vanderels. If you want the deep meanings of Scripture, I don't study that. But am I going to tell people, well, don't study that stuff? That's a big mistake. learn from me. No, I'm going to send you to my friend Dina Dye. She studies that stuff. If you want to learn about the temple, if you want to learn the very, very beansy basics, I'll say, well, I can help you. If you want to really know, I'll send you to Joseph Good. And, I've got these different topics where I've been studying them, but I'm not anointed to teach in them. So am I going to tear them down? Am I going to say, well, I don't teach that, and so you shouldn't study it either, because I definitely don't want you to know more than I do? No. The goal of a teacher, a Bible teacher, is to want everyone to get as much out of the scriptures as possible. Okay, had to get rid of my husband's evil cat. She started meowing loudly. So, the discouraging people to learn is a big problem in the online manifestation of this movement. You should never, ever be one intimidated to start learning. All this stuff with the ancient Near Eastern context and everything, I started learning it 5 years ago. Started teaching it 2 years ago. Because I really, really believe in the whole the fruit tree law. The fruit of the tree is uncircumcised for 3 years, and then in the 5th year it's fit for human consumption. I believe we should spend years learning before we try to teach. And I believe those kind of shortcuts have led to a problem in the online body, where teachers are teaching, but they really don't know as much as they say they do. They don't have depth. And so when anyone starts presenting new information, they kind of shrivel up, and the only option is to attack other teachers, because they want to be the authority. It's not, being a teacher is not about being an authority. Being a teacher is about helping people become more knowledgeable. That's it. That's it. Helping people to become more knowledgeable. Not about being an authority, not about being looked up to, not about being respected. Being a teacher is about showing people that they can learn, and more importantly, that they can learn on their own at some point. Of course, at first you can't. Most people don't figure out how to add and subtract on their own. I certainly didn't. I certainly didn't learn calculus on my own. That took, 13 years of 12 years of school before I was, 13 years of school before I was able to start doing that. A teacher should make you feel like you can do it, not discourage you from doing it. So, be careful with these guys, these online teachers. Ran into another one, a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, where a woman asked him a very, very reasonable question. He made a claim. She said, would you please give me the Bible verse that says you can do that? And he could have just given her the verse from Daniel. Would have taken Daniel 9, would have taken, 5 seconds, but he said, I had to figure it out by myself, you have to figure it out by yourself. And yet he was making claims he was trying to teach. We get into these problems. Part of the problem with social media is that, we've got people out there with fake names teaching. Fake names means no accountability. It means we can't know what kind of people they are. It's bad enough on social media that you don't know what kind of a person I am in real life. For all you know, I'm a child abuser. You don't know. You don't know how I treat people in real life. You don't know anything about me. You don't even know if I'm legitimately a believer. You don't. Let's be honest. You don't. You would be more likely to know if we were in personal contact every day. But that's not... The social media world has changed everything. It's changed everything. You don't have a relationship with your teacher anymore. You don't have relationship with your friends anymore because, nobody leaves their houses. We're always online. And so we can play pretend games, and people, just by speaking forcefully, can create an aura that they know things, when in actuality, maybe they don't, or maybe they're trying to, maybe an apologetics ministry that's really, really good at apologetics. Maybe they didn't think that was relevant enough anymore. And maybe they started going into what I do, into ancient Near Eastern context, but they haven't studied. And so they're leaving behind the apologetics that they really do well, that they were called to do, that they're excellent at. And they're trying to be more relevant in doing this. Maybe another person is supposed to be teaching about sustainable living. But they started, getting in over their heads with this or that. And they're really, really good at this. And they're not really, really good at that. And then when they get challenged, they get abusive. Okay? We need to value our own gifts. If we don't, we're going to start lording authority. We're going to start tearing other people down. We're going to start mocking and insulting and undermining brothers and sisters in the body of Messiah. When we should be saying, I see what they do, I'm not going to study that, or not, I may want to know it, but I'm not ever going to know it deep enough to teach it. So if you have a question on that, go to them. You don't need me for everything. I mean, that's one of the things we kind of learned in the church system, right? Is the pastor is everything, and the pastor doesn't send you away to another church where somebody teaches something different. But we can't do that anymore. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that. We have to, if you are a teacher, if you are a leader in the body of Messiah, then you need to look at the need of the person who's in front of you. And you need to send them where they need to go. And where they need to go may not be you, but this isn't about audience share. This is about discipling people. This is about equipping people to do what they're supposed to do, to get their questions answered, to get their needs met. And so, you know what? Be really, really careful of people who don't know how to, one, be disagreed with, people who, two, don't know how to release you to somebody else if they can answer the questions better than you can. This is all part of the church game, and we're still playing it because, we're still Protestants. We're just protesting. We want to be the pastor. We want to be, even people who say that they don't want that leadership thing. Well, the boys and I have been studying the beginnings of the USSR and the modern state of Cuba and a lot of different places this year. Always starts out the same. Always starts out with people who say, we're all equal. But as George Orwell said in Animal Farm, some are more equal than others. We need to stop undermining each other. We need to be in our niche. We need to do what we do excellently. We need to network. Daniel Botkin, who's a great teacher, a guy who's been playing nice with others long before I ever even knew what the word Torah meant. Somebody sent him one of my articles after reading one of his, and so he said, "Oh wow, we're saying the same thing here." Although he said it in 5,000 words and I said it in 1,000 because he really, really went into depth. And I told him, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read it right now because we're moving, and if you're looking behind me, you can see all the moving boxes and everything, and empty bookshelf still. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read it, but I was in the process of writing blog, just couldn't write it. And I said, well, I'll read his thing. And it was excellent. And I posted it, and I asked Daniel, can I put it in my blog? for a guest blog. I've never done a guest blog before, but this is great. Everyone needs to read this. And by the way, it's called The Slippery Slope of Sola Scriptura, and it's not about what it sounds like. Excellent blog. I hope you'll check it out on theancientbridge.com. Great article. And all these comments were coming and saying, wow, it's so great to watch teachers work together. And you know what's really sad? That people should have to comment such a comment, that it isn't common, that we aren't all doing this. And of course, at Wisdom and Torah Talmudim teachers, that's what we do. We all work together. We all promote each other. We all network. We send people to each other in our areas of expertise. That's what we do. And yeah, I'll do it with others too, like Daniel Black in that article. Man, it was great, and I wanted to as many people to read as possible. It should not be a surprise when teachers are upholding each other and teachers are honoring each other and teachers are respecting each other, but sadly it is. Why? Because we learned in the church denominational system, and frankly, when you look out there on social media, in the Hebrew Roots Messianic movement, you've got a million different, we got more denominations in Christianity because every person's like their own denomination. Now, I'm speaking guilty here, really. We need to you know, if you're a hand, you need to look at the foot and say, I need you. And the foot needs to say to the hand, I need you. And to the skin cell that's over here that nobody's paying attention to, you know, I need you. We need everyone in the body. We have to stop not appreciating each other's gifts, each other's expertise. You know, my friend Joel Sanchez down in Costa Rica, he has an incredible ministry, Crucified Life Ministries. He takes care of the poor and the widows and the orphans. I'm not going to tell him I don't need him. I need him because all I can do to take care of widows and orphans is give money. I give money to him every single month because he's doing work that's important. Am I going to say, well, because you're not teaching, you know, what I'm teaching? And he does actually teach. This is just an example. Because you're not teaching, you're not really a part of the body. Or because you teach at a different level or to a different audience than I teach, then you're not really part of the body. If you've studied things that I haven't studied, you should actually just be studying what I'm studying. And don't go any farther. We should all just, nobody should have information that I don't have, because then if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to be embarrassed if I can't answer. I'm embarrassed if I can't answer a question. How ridiculous is that? But that's what we've got going on out there. And it just comes down to it being about me, and wanting to be the source of information and not acknowledging and appreciating what other people have to bring to the body. Anyway, that's it for this week. Next week, we're going to do my favorite teaching, don't touch the fruit on that little tree. Take it easy and have a good week. Bye-bye.